Okay, so you can see now what the grain on this maple looks like. I'm not sure the variety of this. I know it's maple, but I'm not sure the variety exactly. So I'm gonna have to do a little more cutting and see if I can get a better look at this. Nice wood though. The knots are pretty tight. This one has a little bit of a bump here. I'll probably get another 1-inch board out of this. And then I'll have to do some trimming on it. Although the way it looks there, if I cut, I might be able to cut 2 side cuts and get a cant out of this. Okay, from the view at this end down here, it looks like I can cut the cant out of that. So what I'm talking about here is, it looks like this is probably the cant size, that cut, and I might be able to get like down in here and then take the other side off, and we'll see what kind of boards I can get out of that. But at the moment I'm just going to have to check each one to see how they're split or whatever. The one thing nice about maple is pretty strong. Even if there's a crack in it, you know, from like it cracking naturally, the boards on both other sides seem to last pretty good. It all depends on if it's twisted. If the grain in the maple's twisted, then it can get, you know, it gets weird and it starts to buckle, bend, and turn itself. Then it makes it hard to use it. I'm going to turn that to the side on a 90 and cut this. Now, one of the things that, you know, if you're not used to this or you haven't done a lot of mechanical work in your life, if you look here, you'll see the top of this log is against the stop, but the bottom's away. So what you want to do when you have a situation like that is to put the dog slightly lower than halfway up the log, and as you tighten this up, that should pull that in there. Yeah, almost in. Now, it's fairly tight and it's not going any further, so I can just take and pull this like this a little bit, and that's pretty straight now. So if I want to, I can loosen this and raise this up. Then when I tighten it, it'll be straight in line with that backstop. It's important that you have alignment with the backstop, because if you don't, you're not going to get straight boards. Okay? So you can see that that stop there is nice and snug. You want to keep that like that so that you end up with nice square boards. That's what you're after. cut it a little lower. I'll make another cut on that. Maybe another inch. That there's probably a 1x4 in there. So I'm just going to set this on the rolling table over there, and I'll cut the switch later. I'll cut that board out of there. Show you the grain. You can see there's a little bit of sappy wood there. It's not very much on the maple, but the rest of it's pretty white. Now there's a crack there. That's from that original crack in the log as it started to dry over there. But it also was because the tree had the log had a bow in it. So I'm gonna leave that like that for now and turn it another 90. Said this before, and I'm going to say it again so that everybody gets this. When you're pulling against that little welded stop that's there, right here, you need to put the dog down lower. That'll hold the bottom. Let me just put it back here. You need to keep the dog down lower on the log, and that'll keep this bottom flat on the bunk. If you go high with the dog, if I take this dog and put it up here, it'll tend to pull the log over a little. And the lighter you make the cut, the more it does it, the lighter the board is. So you want to keep it low so you have a flat bottom, flat with the bunk. And that'll give you nice square boards. If your boards aren't square, that may be your biggest problem. this is starting to get a lot nicer looking. You can see at this end there's a little bit of a wet spot there. I don't think it's rot, it's just probably wet. Probably was frozen partway in there not too long ago. Still 2 knots in there, the knots don't look bad. You can get maple wood out of that. I mean, there's no reason why you can't get a cable out of a piece of wood that's going to come off of there. Let me just move this split. Again, I'm keeping that down low. So this flitch at this, or this cant I mean, at this point, ended up being 8 by 10 inches. So because of the split that's in the log, I'm going to turn that 90 degrees, and that's where I'll cut all the boards from. You can see it's still pretty nice grain. The knots in oak, or I mean in maple, look really good too. But all white maple is very nice to work with. It gets really hard after it dries, I can tell you that. just picking the back stops up to keep the cant from coming this way, that's all. So now I'll be able to cut all the boards out of there. When you have a high cant like this, it's 10 inches high, 8 inches wide, you want to make sure you keep the dog at the bottom of the cant. You tighten that up and that'll give it so you can cut everything out of there. Getting a little bit of design in here. This would still be a good board. Now that the one that I cut there has to have the bark cut off of it, but I'm just saying this next board looks pretty good yet, so we'll cut that. We're heading into the middle of that log already. Getting some nice looking wood here. Now if I would turn that on a 90 and cut against the split in the board, you can see on this side it's a nicer looking piece of wood. But I don't want to do that because I'm going to be losing boards because of the split that's in it. Right now I might lose one board, but if I go the other way I'm going to lose the width of 5 or 6 boards. can't get a little bit of a split in there. You can see right here, and that could have been from the log drying, it could have been from freezing, or it could just have been that it was in the wind a little bit, but that's what I'm up against here. I still have some nice looking wood there. I want to stack these other boards on the table there. Yeah, you can see right here how that's splitting open a little bit. Just some drying. You'd be surprised how fast the sun takes away the water off of these. Thing to do is these boards that look like this, because of all the little surprises we're getting, is to dry them and see what you end up with. See how bad that cracks. I'm just going to keep cutting that the way I'm going there. Now you can see how the more you loosen this up, the wider this is getting here. I still have some good board down at that other end, but it's getting a little bit flaky on this side. I'm not going to keep this board. There's too much going on with it. It's got a big crack in the middle and right here as well. So, and that next one is probably going to be the one where the split is, so I'm not going to keep that either. I'm not saying you can't use this wood for something. You can cut this into strips, make yourself fence boards or whatever. I'm just saying I don't want it. I want the best looking stuff I can find. Yeah, there's a split here, one there, and then up at the other end it's going this direction. So this should kind of fall apart when I cut it this board. board, I'm not interested in this one either. You can see there's a pretty big split in there. Now, that board there is the first one underneath the crack in the log. So once I cut that off, I should be into some good boards again. That's the board that had the crack sideways in it. It comes down there. Well, actually the other one and this one had it in it. So I'm not going to keep that board either. But the next board, this board that's on the cant, that's a nice one. So there should be 3 nice boards at least to come out of the bottom of that. Plus I have 3 on the table, 4 on the table. This next cut should just about get me out of the center of the tree there. If you notice, when I cut through the end here, it didn't open up because that split that was going this direction was from the center out of the tree. So this is a pretty good board here. I'm going to keep this one, put it on the pile. Alright, so from what I have there, I can get a 1-inch board up the top of there yet, and then I'm going to flip it over and cut a 1-inch board from the bottom up, and that ought to give me 2 nice boards. good one here as well. Very good. Now the only reason I'm going to turn that around is because if I turn it around, I'll get a squarer piece of board down at this end, cutting an inch off the bunk, off of that piece. In other words, an inch down from that. But I can't cut an inch down because of the saw won't go down that far. So I'm going to turn it around and cut an inch up off the bunk. So that shows you pretty much why I cut the inch up. I got rid of most of the flitch. This board's too narrow for me to use for anything that I want, and it's going to be too hard to dry because it's only a half of an inch. So I'm not going to use this. I'll throw this away. Now that's not to say you can't keep this. You know what I mean? If you're a furniture maker and that's all you're doing, there's no reason why you can't keep a lot of these boards. You just have to cut them down. But you ought to dry them first in their original state, you know, in the big board. Little bit of wane on one side. Other than that, very nice board. What looks like little holes in there is not holes. They're flush with the surface, so they're pretty tight knots. So that's a good one there. So out of that bad looking board, you can figure we got, let's see here, or that bad looking log, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, let's see, that would be 4, so I'll say 6. So you got about 42 board feet of maple. Now 42 board feet, it depends on where you buy and everything else, but if you buy at Lowe's, you're looking at 42 times 8, 16, 4 times 8 is 32, 33. You're looking at $330 or more for those couple of white, or a couple of maple boards that are right there. That can get pretty expensive, where for me it was the cost of the log, which was probably, well, for that log actually they were given to me, so that one didn't cost me anything except for the cutting. So even if at $30 an hour, you know, say an hour and a half to cut it because of talking here, you're probably looking at, you know, you saved yourself $300. But it has to be dried yet. That's the key. Okay guys, so I need to clean up here yet. And I should be in good shape then.